Starting to build a little bit of a stack now. Ace queen, we raise it up.
I see a lot of people in chat asking, like, I mean, it's going to sound bad, but like somewhat basic pre-flop questions. Again, please consult the charts we have at pokercoaching.com. They're in the tool section. Go to the tool section. There are downloadable charts. You can just download, print them out, put them on your wall, whatever. And then we also have an app that will go through and tell you the GTO strategy for normal, for common scenarios, discussing when you get 3-bet, 4-bet, etc. So make sure you reference all that. That'll answer all those questions. And then you have to use a little bit of logic to adjust whatever your opponent's doing incorrectly. All right, so here, you raised, got called.
I raised, this guy called. I'm going to play pretty tight again in these spots.
It's another spot to check a lot, right?
Yeah, this player has a pretty tight range now. He doesn't have a lot of 8s, but he still has overpairs like 9s, 10s, jacks, those type of hands. We're going to give him some respect. If my hand just has enough showdown value here.
So you would check call a flop bet for sure, right?
Yep.
And then check, turn would be pretty rough if he kept betting.
Yep.
Probably just default.
So,
anyway,
the way I think about this spot,
sorry, go ahead.
As a quick thing, like I would bet Jack 10 on this flop.
Because
the reason I bet Jack 10, well, the reason I'm betting Jack 10 is I want this exact hand to fold. I want to bet Jack 10 to get Ace 10, Ace Jack, King 10, King Jack to fold. So I get dominated hands to fold. When I bet Ace Queen, I don't want to fold out Queen Jack. I don't want to fold out King Queen, Queen 10, Ace 9. I dominate a lot of his hands, and so I want it to go check check, and then I hit an ace, and I get 2 streets of value versus his Ace 4 suited, for example, or something. I dominate so many of his weak hands. That's why I'm not really trying to bluff him out of the pot here with Ace Queen.
For those who go through the poker coaching homework, this is just like a classic marginal made hand that you just want to see a cheap showdown with it. You probably win if you see a cheap showdown. If a lot of money goes in the pot, you probably lose, or at least it's not going to be a great scenario. So, just check, call.
So the same thing, I would bet Ace 4 on this flop to try to fold out Ace 9, Ace 10, Ace Jack. So try to think about what you accomplish when you bet.
And also, like, can you happily call or check raise if your opponent bets? And if you can happily call, like with Ace Queen here, then checking's fine. But if you cannot happily call, like with Jack 10, then you should be at least considering betting that. Good flop.
Very similar situation where we get flatted by a tight opener. Not a spot I'm going to be continuation betting a lot here because this range has a lot of suited broadways. Queen Jack suited, Jack 10 suited, King Jack suited, King 10 suited. A lot of really strong hands, but obviously we have a very strong hand. I do go for the kind of the sneaky check here. We definitely don't want to bet every time we think we have a queen here. This is one of those spots we check a lot. And when we check a lot, we need to check some good hands too here. Obviously, it'd be fine to bet here with my hand. I chose to check this time and go for a check raise and generate a fold here. I mean, you can make the case I should have just bet out. I think it's either way could go, I think either way you can justify going about it either way, I think.
Do you use any hands as check raise bluffs?
Yes. So here,
what would you use on the king or king queen board?
The types of hands I want to bluff with here are going to be like Jack 10.
By the way, you said you're checking a lot, right? So we're checking a lot, including some hands that we know we're going to be check raise bluffing, right? We already have that in our mind. What a lot of people do wrong out of position is they never check raise unless they have the nuts, or they only check call, right? So you want to make sure you have some raises in there with the nuts and with bluffs. So what are some bluffs?
The first hands that come to mind are like Ace Jack and Jack 10, specifically of like spades and diamonds. The reason specifically I say spades and diamonds, this guy flats from middle position. He's not likely flatting many offsuit hands. They're flatting Queen Jack suited, not Queen Jack offsuit. And I want to block the suited queen. So with Ace Jack of spades, I block Ace Queen of spades and I block Queen Jack of spades. So the main thing in my check raising range is I want to have some type of equity. And I want to block his best hands. So having like the ace or the jack of like spades or diamonds or something where you can block the strongest suited hands in their range is going to be very important here. So hands like Jack 10 suited, Ace Jack, Ace 10. I actually even think it's unintuitive, but hands that are really good to check raise here are like pocket fives. And it seems really unintuitive, but pocket fives does not check call here very well. I'd rather almost check fold it than check call. But as a check raise, it works well in terms of you can get pocket 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s to fold. But also, if he does have a queen and he calls, you still have 2 outs to the nuts, basically. So you can still win the pot. So you're bluffing with a hand that still has – it's like bluffing with Ace Jack here, where if he has a queen, I can still hit a 10. But with fives, it's like almost the same thing where I can hit a set. And I can get better hands to fold.
It's basically like a very weak draw to the nuts,
Yeah.
right?
So like my range would be those type of straight draws and like a lot of like small pocket pairs, like pocket threes, pocket fours type of hands. Those are where I would probably bluff from.
I've been looking at the solver a lot in these spots, and it does like to check raise or generally apply pressure with the small pairs, which is
the small
sometimes
pairs on these paired boards are very good because they always have outs against trips. And that's the key thing with your range is you want to have outs against trips.
And if your opponent folds out like ace high or 8-7 suited, who cares, right? Yep. It's fine. Okay, cool.
Skip ahead here, skip a couple small pots. This is kind of one of the key pots early on. This player jams. I just call here with ace king. There's some really deep stacks behind. This guy has 40,000. This guy has 36,000. Jamming doesn't do me anything here, really. The raise is so big that I've already isolated myself against this player. And I want to give the chance, like if I have aces here, I'm going to call. But also, too, if I have like pocket nines, I can call here and then fold if one of these two other big stacks go all in.
Okay, good. I mean, what I do in this spot is if the jam is from about 7 big blinds or more, I usually just call everything I plan on playing.
Yep.
And if it's shorter, I'll usually min re-raise.
I think that's a very good rule
of
thumb.
It's like a general rule. It typically works out pretty well.
And this hand went pretty crazy. This guy calls all in for short.
With this hand, by the way, if you call here and then get jammed on, you're not folding, right?
No, not with the bounties and stuff.
So in this scenario, when you are calling, you're calling with just a good, strong linear range that can profitably call a 13 big blind under the gun, all in, or whatever this is. And then you're folding out the weakest portion if you get jammed on, like nines or maybe like ace, queen, perhaps. Not sure if we're calling ace, queen to begin with. But we're folding out the bottom of our range, and we're calling off the top of the range.
Yeah. Yep, like ace, queen suited would be a hand that potentially we could call with and then fold to one of the shoves from these big stacks.
Right. If it's not you, I mean, you're definitely just calling off like ace, king, and jacks are better. And you probably fold out ace, queen suited and tens and nines if I had to get something like that.
So this got crazy now because this player goes all in for 16,000.
Yep. Easy
happily call. And this is kind of one of the things. If I jam, they might just fold ace, queen here. But now I give them a chance to give them a little rope and
still probably just a fold with ace, queen there.
Yeah, probably. I think so. And we just kind of flop them all dead.
Well, I mean, listen to that range I just gave you. I just gave you literally ace, queen suited and then nines and better. How does the ace, queen offsuit do against that range?
No, 100%. So,
well, that's good. It's good when people make errors.
So now we got a big stack.
Did he have ace six offsuit? Is that what he had? I wasn't even looking at.
He had like 3 big blinds, I think. Yeah, put it in with the ace six.
Yeah, he had 4 big blinds, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Yeah.
Still probably fold with ace six though.
Against ace eight suited here.
13 big blind jam and a shove from you because he's gonna be super dominated.
Yep. I think I'd go for a 3-bet here with the ace eight suited. So I can explain this. This seems a little unnatural to people, but I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't ever 3-bet bluff from the big blind. And it's the reason they don't bluff from the big blind as a 3-bet is because it's profitable to call everything. And when it's profitable to call everything, like your first intuitive answer is just like call. And then when you get queens, you want to 3-bet. But now you got to think about which hands do you want to bluff with. And being in the big blind, you still want to have a good hand when you 3-bet because, for example, this player, Jaffe, is in position and they're going to call a lot. So I need to have some type of hand that has playability. And the reason I pick specifically ace-8 suited here, and this same property will apply to all the hands that I 3-bet here from the big blind, is I want to 3-bet ace-8 suited to fold out ace-9 offsuit, ace-10 offsuit, ace-jack offsuit potentially. I want to fold out hands that dominate me. So I clean up my equity, and if he calls, so what? I have a very good hand. Other example of hands that I would 3-bet here that seem unintuitive but follow that same property is like 10-9 suited. 10-9 suited, I can fold out ace-9 off, ace-10 off, jack-10 off, queen-10 off. All these hands that now on a 10 high flop, it's more likely my hand is going to be the best hand because I've cleaned up that equity. And if they fold pre-flop, great. If they call, I have a hand that plays really well out of position. And so that's why I chose this type of a hand. I'm not going to 3-bet ace-jack off or like ace-jack suited here, for example, because he's never folding ace-queen to my 3-bet.
In our GTO charts, I pulled it up real quick, and turns out 60 big blinds deep, ace-8 suited 3-bets every time. So does 10-9 suited. So good. I mean, we don't have 50 big blind charts in there yet, but 40 big blinds deep is using slightly different range with
offsuit. At 40, it goes to more offsuit hands than suited hands, and I've discussed that in my previous webinars if you guys go back and watch. But yeah, I go with the ace-8 suited here, 3-bet, and I actually get jammed on here, and then we just have a fold. It sucks that I have to 3-bet fold that hand, but it's just going to happen sometimes.
Do you have any...
I don't want to 3-bet king-5 offsuit because this player... I'm playing king-5 offsuit out of position in a very big pot now.
Do you have any tips to learn the pre-flop strategies? Because like you said, a lot of people have literally no 3-bet bluffs here.
Yep.
How do people like... I mean, first off, the answer is just to do it. But how do you recommend people go about learning this type of thing and implementing?
So I have a very this is exactly how I think about it, and it's all about knowing your pre-flop raise first in ranges. Okay, so on the button, I know my pre-flop raises start with I raise all the offsuit 8s and I mix with offsuit 7s. So what I mean by that is I'm raising Jack 8 off, Queen 8 off, King 8 off, Ace 8 off. I'm raising more aces than that. And then sometimes I raise 10-7 off. Sometimes I'll raise King 7 off. So the reason I want to know the offsuit hands is I'm going to start bluffing. When we 3-bet, the hands they fold are their worst offsuit hands. So when we 3-bet here from the big blind versus the button, for example, they're folding 10-9, they're folding King-9, they're folding Queen-9, they're folding Jack-10. We want to 3-bet with hands that are directly below that. So if they're opening 10-9 off, okay? So the button is opening offsuit 8s from the button. I'm going to 3-bet a lot of suited 7s.
Okay.
The reason I want to 3-bet suited 7s is I don't want to have an 8 in my hand because the 8s are the cards that they're going to fold a lot. 8s and 9s are the cards they're going to fold. King 9, King 8, Queen 9, those type of hands are the ones that are trying to fold.
And if you have one of those, it makes it less likely they have that.
Yeah. So in this example, this player raised from button, cut off hijack, like the low jack. The low jack is opening offsuit 10s, like Jack 10, Queen 10, King 10. So I'm going to 3-bet a lot of suited 9s. Here I went with the suited 8. I would 3-bet Queen 9 suited here, King 9 suited, 10-9 suited, those type of hands that I just mentioned before, because I'm getting dominated hands to fold. So when you're facing under the gun now, under the gun is opening King Jack off, Ace Jack off, Ace 10 off. I'm going to 3-bet pretty strong hands. My bluffs are going to come from King 10 suited, Ace 9 suited. They're going to be pretty strong bluffs. So try to 3-bet the suited hands right below the opening range of the opponent. And when you look at your charts, the best way to study this is pull it up side by side. Look at the button's opening range, and then look at the chart and look at what types of hands it's trying to 3-bet. And you'll notice that pattern, that a majority of the hands are the ones right below their opening range because you don't want to block the hands that they're folding.
Awesome. I never even heard this idea or concept, but it makes perfectly logical sense. So good. That's fantastic.
That's how I think about it and how I simplify my strategy.
If you all have never watched any of Matt's other content, he has lots of ideas like this, right? General rules of thumb that apply the vast majority of the time. That'll result in you playing pretty great. So does that apply to other stack depths than this stack depth, or?
Once you get shorter, you tend to not use suited hands. You go more it doesn't really matter. You're just trying to have a blocker. So an offsuit ace or an offsuit king, because once you get shorter stacked, when they call, it doesn't really matter that you're suited because the pot is so big and there's so little money to play behind that it doesn't matter if you're suited or not. So in that case, you'd rather just 3-bet these really trashy offsuit stuff that just try to generate a fold pre-flop. So for example, Ace 6 offsuit, for example, or Ace 8 offsuit, rather than a really good hand like Ace 8 suited.
And deeper stacked, you would rather have the suited type hands because they have better post-flop playability, right?
Yep.
And someone says, isn't it a disaster to 3-bet Ace 9 suited and get jammed on? Well, I mean, when we get jammed, we're just dominated to death, so, not really. Yep. Also, you're not going to get jammed on all that often. That's the other thing I think a lot of people
Exactly. They're incentivized to call. They're not really incentivized. If you actually look at a Gto strategy here, the only hand, there's only 3 hands you should probably jam here. I think it's going to be Ace King offsuit. I think Ace King suited here, he's probably even supposed to call a lot of the time. It's pocket queens and Ace King offsuit, and maybe an Ace 5 suited. Those are the hands he's supposed to call with.
Oh, man, aces. You know your charts here, man. You're nailing it every time. So GTO strategy is to be jamming something well, it depends on exactly what stack depth we're at, but something what you said, right? Ace King, maybe kings, queens, maybe jacks, king queen suited, which is an interesting one, and some ace five suited. So
it's mostly just going to go raise call or raise fold. And so I'm not too worried about. It's not like when you're the player's out of position, they're more incentivized to jam to end the pot.
In terms of like total percentage of hands here, they should be going all in like 1/5 of the time that they are playing, which is not all that often, right? And when they do go all in, you're just super dominated anyway.
Yep, exactly. Small one.
We may have to skip some of the smaller hands as we're moving forward.
Yeah. Now we're sitting out. We'll just go to. We'll start skipping to just the big hands that are important in the tournament.
Thanks to everyone for being here with us today. Thanks to Matt for being with us today.
Here we face a small blind limp. We go ahead and make a big ISO raise here. I make it 4x. Something people don't do enough here. They play too passive in the big blind versus a small blind limp. Some of the hands I would bluff with here are like really trashy hands. So like 10-3 offsuit, queen deuce offsuit, king 3 offsuit. And it's the same reason for what we just talked about with 3-betting. I want to raise 10 deuce offsuit here to get this player to fold 10-3, 10-4, 10-5, 10-6, 10-7. I'm trying to clean up my equity. And then I'm going to raise with all my really good stuff. And then my bluffs are going to come from the really trashy hands. And I'm going to check a hand like 9-8, for example, because 9-8, I don't fold out any hands that dominate me. I just isolate myself against king 9, queen 8, ace 8, all those type of hands that dominate me anyways.
Okay, cool. But this is just straight, good, strong hand. You're raising all your best hands, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Ace 2, we win it. Queens, pretty small pot. Here's a big one with ace queen. I choose to call here with ace queen at 40 deep. You could 3-bet this hand and then fold to a shove. I think that's reasonable. I think flatting is reasonable as well.
I may have a leak here where I hate 3-betting this and folding this hand. So that results in me almost never 3-betting this hand. But
at deeper stacks, I almost always 3-bet this hand.
Deeper is fine because you don't care to fold then at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because we just went through the jamming
it's tricky
range.
at this stack depth. I agree.
Yeah.
And then once it folds here, I'm not very happy about this, but this is where the bounty comes in. If there was no bounty here, I might consider folding. I'd probably fold because this should be a really tight jamming range. He has 4 other players left to act. We have an early position open. My range is really tight for flatting. So if there was no bounty here, I'm pretty confident I would just fold. But when we talked about the bounty, there's an extra 5,000 chips in this pot. So the pot's really 22,000 and I have to call 10,000. So I'm almost getting 2-to-1 odds on my money now versus without the bounty, I'm getting like 1.6 to 1, 1.7 to 1. So this is a spot where I think the bounty makes the difference in me wanting to call versus fold.
For sure.
And chop.
If this was later in the tournament, though, where same blind depth, but the bounty was less relevant because it's a smaller total amount, then you would instead fold, right?
Correct.
Okay.
A7 suited, I just jam versus this 3 big blinds.
Let's talk about the size here. So this guy made it 3 big blinds. We discussed earlier, we're not flatting here. We want to be raising. However, notice if we re-raise the minimum here to like 5,000 or 4,000 and get jammed on by someone else, we still have to call it off.
Exactly.
So in that case, when you would have to call it off, otherwise it doesn't make a difference. You'd rather jam because you don't want to re-raise to 4K, have the big blind call with like king queen suited or something, and then you have to play after the flop. So you'd rather jam in this scenario. So you have to know basic rules like we talked about earlier, but then also how to slightly deviate from it.
Yep, and this is how you win tournaments. You flop flushes and all in pots. Here we got the ace queen again.
We have Godspeed coming in the chat. Hello, hello. Says he loves working with you.
A very similar spot now where we raise. This guy goes all in for 3,000 now. And then we got this player shoving for like almost 30 big blinds. And even if there was no bounty, I'd probably still call here. In this spot, it's basically a 30 big blind rejam versus my open here. But here with bounty, this player could be jamming much wider. And I think ace queen is going to be a pretty clear call here with the bounty.
I will say with no bounty,
bounties, actually.
With no bounty, he can't collect. He knows a 3K player. He has to beat the 3K player with no bounty. So he's not really incentivized to jam wide with no bounty, which means his range should be a little bit tighter than normal, right? Because he has no pre-flop fold equity.
Yeah, it's close. The types of hands I would jam here would be like it's still pretty much just going to be a pretty strong linear range, and I think it should include hands like king queen suited, king jack suited that are well ahead of this 5 big blind all in range. And they can get me to fold some dominated hands as well. Like if this player jams king jack suited, I'm folding king queen off, which is going to be a offsuit part, significant part of my opening range. I'm not thrilled to call it off with ace queen, but I think it's still going to be a call.
For sure. I mean, I'm definitely would call too. I was more so saying that like it's interesting to think, how does this bounty in play impact the opponent's strategy?
Exactly.
And when there's no bounty, the player in the big blind just must have something good. Like there's no chance they're really getting out of line there.
Yep.
But here
100%.
there's a chance they're getting out of line with like ace 10 offsuit or something to try to collect a bounty, right?
Yep.
So
100%.
Given they're a little bit more likely to be getting out of line, you should be substantially more inclined to call. And in both scenarios, ace queen's great. But
as a tip for people in bounty tournaments, in my experience, especially these PKOs, people get way too much out of line for bounties, in my opinion. And so there's a lot of spots where I see people like, guy goes on for 2 big blinds, and the people just shove 60 big blinds with jack 5 suited to try to isolate themselves. And like, you should just call really wide, like in a lot of these spots, because people get out of line. Now the jacks was completely in line. So now we got still a big stack here. Ace queen suited. This player has 25 big blinds. This is just going to be a pretty standard either shove, or I could re-raise small as well. I could make it like 6,500 or so.
I wonder if with no bounty, you should probably just be in with everything.
Yeah, with the bounty, versus this raise size, if they min raised, I would have, if this was a 1,600 raise, I would have a range that would raise to like, say, 4,800 and fold to a shove.
Right.
And that range is going to be something like maybe like an ace 9 offsuit type of hand, potentially. Like something with a good blocker.
But right here, you're not going to make it like 5,200 and fold.
Exactly. The raise is too big where I'm not going to have... I don't want to raise too small because we're out of position. And so I'm just going to convert everything probably to a jam or a fold here.
This is similar to that 4-betting spot earlier with the 40 big blind stack, right? Where you don't really want to 3-bet fold at this stack depth. So mostly shoving or calling, right? Clearly, calling is the least acceptable.
Oh, we just fold king jack to an open here. That looked like it could have
Notice there you would not jam, though, because big blind has a lot of chips.
King 10. King 6 of hearts. We want to pretty... This replayer is not the best.
WSOP.com's replayer is the worst. It's the worst one.
So this is a spot I wouldn't call if it wasn't a bounty. But I call because, A, I have this player marked as a weak player. B, I cover them. And so those are mostly the 2 reasons that I make probably a pretty loose call here. Normally, I'd probably call king 9 suited. And so I expanded a few notches, and I make a loose call here with king 6 suited because I cover the player, because it's a weak player. This is kind of those type of adjustments that I'm making in-game.
Okay. This is definitely loose. This is speculative.
On the button, I think it's probably fine.
For
the cutoff, it's definitely speculative.
It's tough because you have this other deep stack player on the button who, if they're paying attention, they're going to widen their range too.
100%.
Which is, I don't think that's really what you want.
Yeah, I think I get away with this because I think people just in general have very poor squeezing strategies and don't squeeze enough. Okay. And they don't attack these weak ranges enough that you can get away with it. But these are the types of adjustments.
To that minute detail you just mentioned there, right?
Yeah, and just in general, these are the types of adjustments you're making. When you're playing live and you have that player you want to get in pots with, you should expand your calling range some against them. Or online, when you take notes on players, you should expand your calling range against the players you want to get in more pots with.
Right. If they're making errors, you want to play with them to capitalize on their errors.
Yep. Normally I would just call here. I think with our hand, raising is certainly acceptable, but it is an under the gun range. I'd probably normally just call, but with the bounty, I'm actually don't care really if I get it in here.
Why not just jam? Because you're not making it 4K with any. I mean, are you making it 4K with some or 6K with some hands?
I think there would be some hands here. Like if I had like king jack offsuit with the king of hearts, that would be like my prime candidate to raise here. So I block king queen, I block queen jack. I have the king of hearts blocking a lot of the flush draws. Those would be a type of hand that I would potentially raise and then fold to a shove here.
Okay, so notice here, everyone, that there are, given the stack depth, you can still raise fold some hands, right? Therefore, we can use a small raise size with the best draws we know we're calling off, junky draws like king of hearts, jack, and the nuts.
Yep. So like my bluffs are basically going to be like having an overcard to the queen and like a heart in my hand that blocks some of the queen X. So I get a fold here. It's good.
And notice here that like if you just folded your king jack offsuit here, you don't have the opportunity to get these folds from your opponent, and you don't chip up.
Exactly. Like king jack's, I would have called king jack against that player in the same spot. I think king jack and king six suited probably have pretty similar value in those spots.
Okay, great. Don't be afraid to get out of line and bluff.
Yeah. We go ahead and call another player that I have marked as a kind of a weak player. We're deep stacked, 10-9 suited on the button.
You would probably play this under any normal scenario, though, right?
Yeah, I don't like that it's a 3x, but I think this hand I might get out of line. I start with a bet here.
This is a draw. I guess you would fold if you get raised reluctantly?
Yeah, I would fold if I get raised. You can make an argument that I should use a larger size here, but...
Well, your opponent's never folding on the flop when you bet that size unless they just have
my goal here is to just try to fold out 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, those type of hands.
Right. Sometimes you get there.
And then, yeah.
And now you're betting big because you want to try to get stacks in by the river.
Yeah, I bet big because mostly, too, I'm not betting a queen here. And I'm not betting, like, ace-10, probably.
Right, so you're super polarized at this point.
My range is going to be, like, 2-pair plus, pretty much, here. So I'm going to bet a size that allows me... I'm going to bet geometric. So geometric sizing, I'm going to try to bet the same percentage of the pot on the turn and on the river. So here I'm going to bet, like, this is about 75% of the pot. If they called, the pot would be 50,000. And so I didn't do it quite correctly. I should have probably bet a little bigger because then I have 100% of the pot left on the river.
Notice here it's just kind of hard to get in because stacks are a little bit too deep.
Yep.
Would you be betting... What other bluffs do we have here? Are we betting, like, king X of hearts?
So a lot of the other bluffs are actually going to be similar ones that we've talked about. I'd probably start bluffing with, like, small pairs, deuces through fives, where with a heart in my hand, where I have equity against like an ace. I can get queen X to fold. I can get some jack X to fold, some stubborn hands, and I have equity. I would be bluffing with like small flush draws, like 5, 6 of hearts, just trying to pound on his weak ace fives or queen tens. Queen 10 might call. Those are the types of hands that I'm going to bluff with. I think like Jack 10, Queen 10 are probably reasonable hands to bluff with too, to try to start put pressure on an ace X hand. Okay. Once they call the flop. Cool. So you're going to have to bluff here with things that feel unnatural to bluff with.
Because you don't really have a whole lot of obvious bluffs here.
Exactly. One of the most common bluffs here would probably be 8X of hearts. Blocking ace 8 is pretty important here. Bluffing with an 8, I think, is probably pretty good here, too.
It's not good when they check call the flop, right? Like, the 8's not the best hand.
Exactly.
Whenever you have, like, bottom pair type hands, they basically have, like, 5 outs to some extent, right? And the hearts clearly have more. But if they're very unlikely to be good, it becomes a reasonable bluff candidate because it's like a 5-out draw.
Yep. I get 3-bet here. Cutoff versus button. I'm covered. I'm not too happy about it, but I think ace 10 is probably too good to fold.
Yeah, this is a tough spot. If you go smaller, you can definitely stick around. I might even just fold this. I know it sounds nitty.
This is where I went with. I kind of broke my rule where normally I don't 4-bet fold here, but I went for a small 4-bet here, which I'm not sure, especially how I have this player marked, if I necessarily like. This is like the type of hand, if I am going to 4-bet bluff, it's going to be this type of hand. And what you talked about when you just said, I don't like this spot, I'm assuming in game that's exactly what I said, but I also didn't want to fold. Yeah. So I'm like, well, let's throw this into this is a pretty good hand to 4-bet bluff with.
Well, a lot of the time, like we mentioned earlier, if it's a spot that is not quite good enough to call, you're either folding it or it's a potential bluffing hand, especially if it has a relevant blocker at the stack depth. And we have the ace, right? So certainly a viable bluffing hand.
I think I would rather either call or 4-bet bluff here. I think this is a little too strong of a hand. Like I would fold ace 9, but I think ace 10 here is a little too strong to fold.
Okay.
Unless you have a read that the player is really tight.
I just hate the big raise size. I think that's my issue with it, is that we're a bigger raise size, bigger 3-bet size than perhaps is always happening. And as they go bigger, you can
I feel like this is
more. I mean, it's 3x, right? I get it's 3x. I understand.
Yeah. If they're going this small, you should call even a little wider than the charts. Because I think the charts probably have the re-raise at like 3.2x or 3.3x, I'm assuming. I'm not
sure with this.
I think they're normally. I think it's probably bigger. It's probably like 3,200 to 9,600. So we're getting a pretty good price here. It's close. I think it's close either way. So
okay.
I get this
we call
pretty dry.
Oh, you 4-bet. Yeah. You 4-bet the guy, and then you get this flop. So what's the strategy when you 4-bet? Like, what are you thinking on various flops?
This is normally a flop I would bet a lot, and if this is a rainbow flop, I would almost certainly bet. here not having a heart in my hand really kind of sucks. And now I'm out of position. This player has, I think if I had the ace of hearts or the 10 of hearts, I would almost always bet. And I think I kind of decided now to just give up at this point, or potentially check and bluff later on in the hand.
If you do check, by the way, the plan is not to just like check down and pray to win, because you're not going to win.
Exactly. It's like now I'm going to check fold, but it's going to be like when it goes check, check, I'm going to be either bluffing turn and river, or bluffing river, or bluffing turn. I'm trying to fold that. I'm going to try to get ace jack. I'm not going to let ace jack and ace queen win this pot. Like 100% of the time. That's 100% true.
Okay, good. We have about 30 minutes left today, by the way, so let's do our best to kind of like try to get closer to the final table.
Yeah.
Should we? Just skip over a big chunk. It's fine.
Okay.
Apologize, everyone. We're having good discussions.
Yeah. This is a pretty big one here. Raising a call. We have 30 big blinds. We're out of position. Ace queen off. I think a lot of people just call here. You just got to get it in here.
Easy all in. Got to go.
Yep. And we get called by ace king. Ooh. That's not good. But
sometimes they're going to call you with the best hand.
Yep, not good for him. So, yeah, we'll just skip a chunk here. We'll get a little closer to the final table.
All right. Are you ready to go to the Matrix with me? We're going to be discussing Cyber Week. So, what is Cyber Week? We have solid discounts on all of the products I have made available. We have content on cash games where you can get a solid discount. Lots of webinars on various types of cash games, including tough games, loose games, splashy games, wild games, live at the bike, all sorts of stuff. We also have my cash game masterclass, 29 lessons long. If you want to check out that. We also have lots of stuff on tournament poker. Many courses, including the new tournament masterclass, where I teach you how to play every stage of the tournament optimally and how to fully realize your equity. And the tournament masterclass is not for sale. You can't buy it. It's exclusively available for Poker Coaching Premium members. And if you're a Poker Coaching Premium member, you get access to this and all of these, and this, and this, and this. Here is the table of contents for the Tournament Masterclass. We discuss pre-flop strategies with all sorts of stack depths. We discuss flop strategies at different stack depths as well. We discuss turn strategies, including some of you asked about leading the turn, right? Turn probes, delayed continuation bets, facing delayed continuation bets, etc. We also discuss playing on the river. Clearly, the river is very, very important. We also discuss ICM. This three-letter word does not do that section justice. Substantially longer than 3 letters worth. We also discuss adjusting to various tournament formats like satellites, re-entry tournaments, turbo tournaments, 6-max tournaments, whatever. We also discuss finances, how to be a tournament pro. We also discuss various other topics like tells, mindset, tilt, etc. Plus, we have all of these hand history reviews, all of these tournaments I played over the last 6 months or so during the COVID period. All of these. There was a $50 tournament that I won, another $55 tournament that I won, a $100 tournament, $150 tournament where I took second place, a $630 tournament that I won, a $1,000 third place, a $1,000 PKO, Progressive Knockout tournament where I took second place, 3 wins in satellites. These were the $2,500 buy-in tournaments in 88, 100, and 160. And I played a full session. I think I took a second or third in some of those. Again, check that out at pokercoaching.com/cyberweek. All of that, all of this, all of these hand history reviews. These all take an hour or 2 each. All of these are included. Here's one of my best students, Blas Zerjau. He says, poker coaching has helped him lay strong foundations to excel at No Limit Hold'em and to further work on his game with my help. As you see, Blas has been absolutely crushing it. His results are not typical. You cannot expect all of you to have $2.4 million in cashes over the last 2 years. But, poker coaching member out there, absolutely crushing. So, we have the Poker Coaching Standard membership, normally $39 a month, but you can get a year for $249. In pokercoaching.com, we have over 1,000 interactive quizzes. Now, today, we actually did a different kind of quiz. These are not counted in those 1,000 quizzes, right? Remember how we went through 3 or 4 questions each? None of those count in this 1,000 number. These 1,000 quizzes are like interactive hands where you have to tell me each play you would make, and then you get graded on each betting round as to how you play those spots. And it's not only me, it's a bunch of other world-class coaches as well. So essentially we'll present you a spot like this. You have to say what you would do, and then you'll get immediate feedback from the coach who made the quiz. Also part of pokercoaching.com. We have over 300 classes and webinars. These are somewhere between 30 minutes long and 2 hours long. Like recently, Faraz Jaka. You all may know him. He was WPT Player of the Year a while back. I think he was Player of the Year. Yeah, he's Player of the Year. He made a deep run in the $5,000 WCOOP event. So he went through all of his big hands. Here we have Michael Acevedo. He wrote the book, Modern Poker Theory. He has a lot of GTO solver stuff. I actually learned pretty much everything I know about solvers from Michael Acevedo. He helped design Pio Solver. He got into Munker Solver before pretty much anyone, and he is an absolute crusher. Also, lots and lots of other content here. We just hired Brad Wilson, world-class cash game player, and looking forward to having more and more high-level cash game content from him. Here are the rest of the coaches. Just to highlight a few, we have James Romero. He was in the top 10 live tournament players in the world pre-COVID. Absolute crusher. We have Bert Stevens, Giraffe Ganger, 7. He was the #1 player online a year or two ago. He took a year or two off to hang out and relax, and now he's back grinding hard. He actually went through a $10,000 win. It was a $10,000 buy-in tournament. He won like $450K a few weeks ago. He went through all of the major hands with Michael Acevedo. Also, he's won 2 EPTs over the last 2 weeks. He's absolutely crushing it. He did a private stream just the other day for all the Poker Coaching members. We have lots and lots of interactive private streams. Imagine a stream on Twitch, except for not a lot of nonsense, right? I know we have a very, very good Twitch following here. Thank you all for being good, responsible humans on Twitch, by the way. I know sometimes it gets out of line. But listen, if these guys were streaming publicly, they'd have many, many thousands of viewers, and you wouldn't be able to get any words in. They'd have a tough time answering questions. Instead, we keep it small. There'll be somewhere between 50 and 200 people watching the streams, and they'll answer every question that you ask. That's what we're going for. Also, yeah, Eric points out, we just added Tommy Angelo, one of the people who was the most influential on my poker career as a young poker player. He is the mindset expert, and we just hired him as a coach. He's going to be presenting a webinar, when? Tomorrow. Literally tomorrow. Brand new coach for you. We're continuing to expand the roster. They have over $50 million in earnings. Did I mention that? So, you all may not know this. Since making Poker Coaching Premium, I spent over $200,000 on content. This is money that I have paid the coaches for that. It costs a lot of money to hire the best coaches in the world, but I don't mind. Also, every single month, I'm spending mid-5 figures. Call it $30,000. $30,000 a month on poker coaching content so that you have the most up-to-date, high-level content. And now, what is that worth? Obviously, I'm not going to charge you $10,000 a month for this. I'm not even going to charge you $500 a month, right? But if you think about it, If I did charge you $500 per month, and all I did was help you win an additional big pot or 2 per session that you played, that you would not have won otherwise, would it be worth it? And if you play small stakes, medium stakes, the answer is yes. And to think about it, if all I did was let you attend live weekly coaching webinars with our coaches that have over $50 million in earnings, where you get to ask them whatever poker questions you have in real time, what's that worth? Well, again, if you play poker at any reasonable level, it's worth a pretty decent amount, right? What if all I did was give you access to the thousands of poker situations in the quizzes that you would do, that you're going to encounter every single day, and get instant feedback, immediate feedback from the coaches with new situations added every single week? Again, what is that worth? Take a second. Think about it. Realistically, really, if you can get access to the minds of the best poker coaches in the world, what's that worth to you? Well, if you think it is worth $500 a month, like I said, which is what many, there's only a few, of the high-level training sites charge with substantially less content and almost no new content. If you think that that is a value, well then, if you have not already, you need to take advantage of the Cyber Week and join Poker Coaching Premium, where you can get access to all of this if you get the 3-year plan for $42 per month. It's an absolute steal. And recognize that I've created Poker Coaching Premium to give you all of the tools and training that you need to achieve your poker potential. That is what I want all of you to do. I want you to achieve your poker potential. And if I fail at that job, if I'm not good at my job, I do not want or deserve your money. And that's why, unlike basically every other poker training site out there, I offer a full 30-day money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied with pokercoaching.com, let me know within 30 days, and we'll give you a completely 100% full refund. What more do you want? Sign up for 30 days, tell me you don't like it, and cancel. And I will not be offended. All right? That's what we have for you. That is what we're going for. It's a business. You're not doing this out of the love for us. But did you all know, back before this was a profitable business, I make money off this. Before this was a profitable business, I was losing about $3,000 to $5,000 a month making content for all of you for like 5 years. For 5 years, I threw $3,000 to $5,000 into the furnace every month. Why was that? Maybe I'm a degenerate. I'm not sure. That money was purely for content, purely to help all of you get good at poker. But turns out, if you work hard for a long period of time and you help people achieve their goals and help them enjoy their activities like poker better, they're going to reward you. They're going to sign up, right? That is what people will do for you. If any of you have any billing questions, feel free to email support@pokercoaching.com and they will answer those for you. As we see here, members get access to the Tournament Masterclass. Again, we went through 3 parts of that today out of the 180. Also, there's a 30-day tournament challenge. Every day, we will give you a new piece of content to study to help you develop good study routines and make sure that you're a great tournament player. We also have a 14-day cash game challenge as well. And we have a cash game masterclass too. Remember, all of these things we've discussed so far are part of Poker Coaching Premium. All of these courses, the cash game masterclass, all of these courses, and many, 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 many more. By the way, whenever you sign up to pokercoaching.com, if you're not sure where to start, send us an email and we'll let you know. Let us know roughly what games you play. Let us know what stakes you play, and we'll point you in the right direction. Do we have any mindset coaches? I told you, we just hired Tommy Angelo. He will be a regular contributing coach. Also, we have content on the site from Jared Tendler. He wrote the book, The Mental Game of Poker. We have content from Elliot Rowe, who has been the mindset coach for many of the absolute best players in the world, including people like Fedor Holtz. We have 2 webinars by Fedor Holtz. He made 2 mindset courses for us as well. We worked with him a little bit in the past. And Dr. Trisha Cardner. Again, all this stuff's there. It's part of the deal. I made pokercoaching.com to be the one-stop shop so that you do not need to go anywhere else to study poker content. You wouldn't say you were throwing money into the furnace. It was an investment. You all may not know this. This is my little secret about the training site. I am happy to pay thousands of dollars per hour for private coaching because I play poker at a very high level and it is worth it for me. And if I can turn around and share that with all of you for a tiny, tiny fraction of the price, that's a super value. I mean, again, going back to these coaches, I just want to tell you all, I hate playing poker against Faraz Jaka. And I hate playing poker against James Romero. And I hate playing poker against Bert Stevens and Jonathan Jaffe and Matt Affleck. I mean, really, all of these people. These people all make your life miserable at the poker table. I hire people who I want to learn from. I am hiring the best players in the world to teach me how to get good at poker. And in turn, they're going to teach you to get good at poker. And again, if you're not completely satisfied with pokercoaching.com, within 30 days, tell me you don't like it, I'll give you a full refund. Don't know what more you want from me, right? We try to give you an immense amount of content. We will tell you exactly where to go if you let us know your situation. And anytime you have feedback, anytime you have questions, send us an email and I'll do my best to answer them. We actually just had something we were doing new recently. We had Poker Coaching Premium office hours this morning at 10 a.m. for about 2 hours. I got online, did a show kind of like this, and I answered hand history questions for the most part. There were a few Hold'em Manager questions from the students. What we do, right? Every month we've been doing that for the last few months, and it's been going great. We also have a Discord channel. We have a study group that studies Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. We will sporadically back players into tournaments because I realize some of you want a shot to play $500 and $1,000 buy-in tournaments. So we give you a shot. You need help beating $25 to $150 tournaments. Where should you start? The Tournament Masterclass. I'm telling you, if you make it through the Tournament Masterclass, 30-ish hours long, not including the hand history reviews, as we see here. Here it is. This is part of pokercoaching.com. What I would tell you to do, you want to win $25 to $150 tournaments, go through these hand history reviews. Here are literally 3 hand history reviews that I played over the last few months, where I played a $50 tournament and won, another $50 tournament and won, and a $150 tournament and took second place. Okay? Okay. So anyway, check it out, pokercoaching.com/cyberweek. I want to thank all of you for being here with me today. Hope you enjoyed this. What would I prescribe to quickly improve you in small stakes tournaments? The Tournament Masterclass. That said, send us an email with your exact situation and we will send you to the right direction. If you're a Poker Coaching Premium member or a Poker Coaching member, I'm here for you, right? I answer and see all the emails that come through. I do my best to be available to all of you within reason. Understand we have many students, so it's tough sometimes, but I do my absolute best. I have a great support team who will help you out. Again, if you have any billing questions, I see some of you asking this, send us an email, support@pokercoaching.com. We are fair, reasonable humans, and we'll do our best to help you out. So anyway, that's it. It's Cyber Week. Enjoy it. Check it out, pokercoaching.com/cyberweek.